verse right now is, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God who gives to all liberally without reproach and he will give it.
Hey guys, welcome to the Do It Again God podcast. I'm here tonight with my friend Brittany, and we are going to be talking about non-traditional schooling, specifically microschooling, which might be familiar from when Kim King did her podcast episode. She is the founder and a teacher at Rooted Learning Company. So, Brittany, do you want to go ahead and open up for us? Is there anything that you want to share specifically about non-traditional schooling that's been on your heart? Or we can go back and you can tell us kind of like the foundation of your walk with the Lord.
What do you want me to start with?
Let's start with, like, if you wouldn't mind just giving a little history or timeline of your walk with the Lord.
Yeah, so I grew up Lutheran,
Okay.
like a lot of people in this area.
Yeah.
And I mean, we went to church every week, mostly throughout until I was 18 years old. I grew up with like a really strong faith in Jesus. Like I prayed all the time. I really, really did not like going to church. Like growing up, I really didn't like it. And I felt really guilty about that.
Sure.
Like what's wrong with me? You know, I don't like to go to church, and I'm like, that's not a good thing. And so then I went to college, and I did not go to church much. Kind of went down this rabbit hole of like, I don't want to believe in God just because my parents told me to, just because I grew up believing it. Like, I want to know the truth.
Yeah.
And so I went and I started studying evolution. I started studying like other religions.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know this about you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I wanted to know what's true. I don't want to just believe what I've been told. And when I looked into that stuff, it was like even evolution, it's like, I was very surprised about the lack of actual evidence there is to support it. And it actually really reaffirmed my faith. And like the Bible gives us the answers, and like there's a lot less questions actually with the story of creation. And so that's actually, I came back to the Bible and like, no, this is what I believe after looking into everything else.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really comforting.
So I know Lucas was just on the What Project podcast, or maybe he wasn't just, but I just listened to the episode recently, and he talked about like a similar journey of kind of looking into those different things. Did those coincide? No. So you each like had it in your heart to go out and search those things on your own. Wow. That's great. And how wild. I feel like I told you earlier today at school that the Holy Spirit has just been so clear to me, like in the last week or so, after maybe a little bit of a drought, feeling like, Lord, where are you? And one of the things, I have no idea why I was even thinking about this in regards to the podcast that we're doing tonight, because it has nothing to do with schooling. But I had this image that I had seen about evolution, and it had the picture of the chimp all the way, you know, the different stages up to the human. And the question was like, okay, we still have this, the chimp, and we have this, the human. Where's everything in between?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, okay, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So how wild that you just brought that up, because you threw me a curveball when you started talking about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just,
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were maybe like 18 at this time?
Yeah,
Okay.
18, 19-ish time frame.
Sure.
Yeah, and then my parents left the Lutheran church, and they started going to a Free Methodist church in Fillmore. And so like towards the end of my college years, I started going with them every once in a while, and I loved it. Like It was so different. And I really got drawn into that church. And we started going there. I got married, had 2 kids while we were there, and just was going to church regularly there. And then my brother, Lucas, challenged my family to read the Bible. And this was like in 2017, I think, where I'm like, okay, I'm going to read the Bible. Everybody should read the Bible at least once. Like one time, bucket list, you better just do it.
Yeah.
And so I was going to read the Bible, and I did. I read the Bible in 2017, and it was a really uncomfortable process for me. Like, it challenged a lot of the beliefs that I had grown up learning and believing.
Yeah.
Like, and there was a lot of hard things that I had no idea. Like, I went into reading the Bible thinking like I pretty much know what it says.
Yeah.
Like, grew up in church. Like, I felt like I knew what was in there.
Sure.
And so it was a little shocking and hard.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, I'm like, I had these moments where I would read certain scriptures and I'd be like, I don't even know if I'm going to heaven, type of thing.
So the Lord was wrestling. You were wrestling with that a little bit.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
There is something to be said about that, because that's something I feel like I'm currently walking through, of like kind of making this big life change as my walk with the Lord changes. And you're right, like, but that's not what I grew up learning. And it feels a little like maybe dishonoring to those leaders or teachers who had taught you that. But then, yeah, when you realize like what's actually in here, it's like, wow, it's life-changing. But you're right, it can be really hard.
Yeah, it was challenging.
So at this time, was Lucas and your mom and dad also reading? Like, were you on a schedule of sorts together?
Yes, I think we did read, like, in the Bible app. I think we all were reading it together at the same time.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So did that make you want to read it a second time?
Nope.
No?
I was like, I did it. I'm done. I don't have to worry about that anymore. Like, I did it, and I've read it. It's kind of like a bucket list thing. Like,
Yeah.
everybody should read the Bible.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Wow.
And so then, like, I didn't read it in 2018. I was just like, again, going about, like, I felt like I'm saved. I felt like I was saved my whole life because I believed in Jesus. Like, I believed, I didn't doubt. And then in 2019, we were now at Root River Community Church in Rushford. And I remember just, again, it was just a normal week at church. Loved church here.
Yeah.
Amazing church.
So your heart had changed a little bit from like not wanting to go to church to enjoying the church in Fillmore, changed to Root River.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So this is like probably 6 years of now being back in church and enjoying it. 7 years of being back in church every week, enjoying it and everything. And then there was one week where I was sitting in the pew during one of the sermons, and Pastor Mike was talking about the fruit of having a relationship with the Lord. And I just remember thinking, like, I don't relate to that. Like, I don't relate. I don't understand. He was talking about, like, the Holy Spirit speaking to you and just being led by the Lord. And I'm like, I don't understand. And I actually, it's almost like I felt these walls like kind of come crashing down around me. And I just remember feeling really vulnerable and like, oh my gosh, like I just had this moment, like, I don't think I'm saved. I'm missing something. And I just started frantically searching for like maybe a week or two and like praying and like reading my Bible. I'm like, Lord, what do I have to do to be saved?
Yeah.
Like, I believe that you're there, but there was like, I didn't feel the Lord speaking to me. I did all the talking. Like, I did all the praying. Like, he answered my prayers, prayed, I believed, but I didn't hear from him. And another thing, it's like the first commandment, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, is like, I remember just kind of wrestling with that a little and like, how do I actually love God more than anything, more than my husband, more than my kids? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Like when he's so far off, like, you know? And so that was like something that I was wrestling with. And I don't even know how I came to this conclusion. Like, it was probably 1 or 2 weeks of just like praying to the Lord and crying out to him, like, Lord, what do I need to do? And I came to the conclusion somehow that I needed to surrender my life to him.
Wow.
And I'm like, I had never grown up even knowing or hearing about that. Like, that was a new concept to me. But and so I'm like, okay, I do. Like, out of like a holy fear, I'm like, I want to commit my life to God.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that week was baptisms.
Wow.
And so like a few days before we had baptisms, like we do it twice a year at church, and it just happened to be that week. And I'm like, I went in, I got baptized, and I'm like going in thinking, okay, God, I'm getting baptized in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And so I'm going to have the Holy Spirit now, and so I'm going to be able to hear your voice, because like I hadn't felt that.
Right.
And so I did. I went in, got baptized, and I remember after that, I started to have so much more revelation.
Wow.
And it really, like, I had, at this time in 2019, I had started reading the New Testament again.
Okay.
And it had gone from, like, just reading the Bible, like, kind of to check it off the list. Like, it was interesting, but it wasn't like, it changed after I got baptized. And it was like, I couldn't get enough of it. And I was just like, words were jumping off the page, and the Lord was just speaking to me through his word.
Wow. It's literally living and active in that moment to you. Well, always, but that's really when you started to notice it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, something really shifted once I realized I'm done living for myself.
Yeah.
And I can't just believe, but I have to give him my life and follow him.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Right. Because the Bible says that he is, what is the verse? It talks about how, yes, if you believe with your heart and confess with your mouth that he is the Lord.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
That is actually very, again, this is like so crazy to me, because so it's been almost a full year since I asked you to do this podcast. And just this week I was on my knees with that same feeling of like, Lord, you're so far away. Like, you're all the way up in heaven and I'm all the way down here. And I don't know I don't know what to do anymore. So I'm just going to sit in prayer in silence. Like you said, you were doing all the talking. I'm like, I'm just going to sit quietly and I'm going to let you speak to me. And since that moment actually is like when all these things have been revealed to me.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing once you surrender that to the Lord, like how he'll work in your life.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. So that was in 2019, you said? Okay. How about from there on then to up to today?
Yeah. So right after that, like there were several months of the Lord revealing to me things in my life that didn't align with his word. It was actually really painful.
Yeah,
like,
I was just going to say that can be tough.
It is. It was really hard.
Yeah.
And it was like one thing after another. The Lord's like, I need you to turn away from this. I need you to turn away from this. And like it's so worth it now. And once it's all out, it's great.
Yeah.
But it is painful in the process of letting those things go.
Totally is.
And so, yeah, and then it's just like, and I feel like it's a continual process. Like I'm still on this process of just surrendering to him, walking in obedience, and like trying to grow in doing things in faith. And yeah.
Do you know, on Sunday, did you guys go to Harmony on this past Sunday? Did you guys see the 4 Cups of Communion sermon? That was such a word for me, because I have had those moments of like, Lord, I thought I was saved. I thought I was baptized, but it's just the re-sanctification process that's like, it's going to be for the rest of my life. So I just have to know that there's going to be a work done over and over and over.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Every day we have to wake up and choose, like, God, I choose to live for you and not for myself today.
Yes. Wow. How about as you were walking through that, what was your family experiencing? Your immediate family, well, I guess not your immediate family anymore, but your mom, dad, and your brother.
Yeah, we actually all had gotten baptized at that same time.
Oh.
So that's why, like, the timing was really strange that I, like, that week came to be like, oh, yeah, I need to get baptized.
Yeah.
Where up to that point, I'm like, I already was baptized. I was baptized as a baby.
Right.
I don't need to do it again. And literally that week, they all happened to be getting baptized the same week. But they were all ahead of me, probably.
Okay.
I was the last one to really come there, and so they had been reading their Bibles and like kind of probably all in for a while before that. Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful though, that the Lord, like, we're reading in the book of Ephesians right now in our small group study, and the Lord just reminded me of like how high and deep and wide is his love. Yeah. So even though, I mean, you said that they were maybe ahead of you, but like the Lord had perfect timing for you.
He did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
anything else that you want to add about your walk with the Lord or the timeline or the history of it?
I think that book covers it.
It does, Brittany. That's so good. I did not know that about you, that you had done all that research into different religions. And wow, that's so cool. Also cool that the Lord gave you the space to do that.
Yeah, right.
Like he is literally just waiting there for everybody to choose him. Cool.
Right. Yeah, and it's an amazing promise that when you seek the truth, you will find it. Like no matter what, like if you are just looking to find the truth, you will find it. And so that's just an amazing promise.
I think that's encouraging to people who might be listening, that like it really is that easy, and the Lord really is that loving.
Yeah.
He is not. You said that you grew up Lutheran, and I guess just like growing up in a I grew up Catholic, and it was more of like I had a fear of the Lord, but not necessarily the holy fear that you kind of referenced. So I think it's encouraging that people can know that you might have challenging questions and you might, go off and research something else, but the Lord will always bring you back. Wow. Okay. So this journey happened. I'm trying to think of when Rooted Learning. I think Rooted Learning started in like 2022. So this was leading up to that, but they didn't quite go back to back. But so the topic that the Lord put on my heart for you, the non-traditional schooling, how did all of that play into your decision to choose something other than what you grew up doing, what John grew up or did as a profession, and what your kids were doing? Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is just wanting our kids to have a really firm foundation in the Lord, and just having that solid foundation, and then just there's a huge community of homeschool people, like through our church and different, like it was really eye-opening because I grew up with sort of this stereotype of homeschoolers kind of weird or like socially awkward or like it's just like it was never something to ever seriously consider. Like there was a stigma with it.
Like we all have long braids and jean skirts. Kind of that's kind of what we've joked about before.
And so it just really opened my eyes to especially like seeing these kids and knowing these kids who are homeschooled and seeing their behavior and like the maturity, and just like there is a huge value, and like these are really good kids.
They are.
Who have been homeschooled, and so that it just really opened my eyes to there are other options, and there's just things that we were going through that are normal things, like but just kind of issues, like within different areas that just kind of kept cropping up, and it was like, it just made us think like, hey, these are things that normally you just push through, but it's like, do we actually have to push through? Is there actually maybe a better solution, a better fit for our family? Than sticking with what we've always known and what we've always done.
I can totally relate. I'll never forget when I called my dad to tell him that we were considering this as an option because of the same reasons. Like there were things that were normal but kept coming up, and I'm like, is this really the best? Like for our 5-year-old at the time? And his comment was, I think what a lot of people have as a mindset is like, well, everybody goes through that, or he has to learn through that, or kind of like pull himself up by the bootstraps kind of solution. And I just remember saying to him, Dad, if Grandma did it that way and you did it that way and I did it that way and we all got the same result, what if we just tried something different? Like what do you think about that? And like luckily I had that relationship with my dad who could be like very hard-headed, but he always had like a little bit of a soft spot for me to try something different. Cool. So how did the conversation even start in your household? Like did you approach John, or were you guys both kind of noticing that, or?
So I was definitely the first one who was maybe a bit more open to it. Like, John has worked in the school system for many years, and I mean, he's very fond of it, and like it's great. Like it is amazing for the right family. It's the right fit for some people. But there was just, with these issues, I'm like, John, do you think that maybe if we tried something else, like, it would work? And it took a while. It took quite a while for him to kind of wrap his head around that and come on board with it. But then he eventually did, and it was like, we're just going to try it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, we'll go back.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
And it ended up being an incredible blessing, and definitely the right decision.
Wow.
So it's been really cool.
Sure. So, like, as you and John were discussing that, did you like ask the boys what their thoughts would be about it, or did you kind of keep it between you and John? Did you take advice like from some of the homeschool families that you know, or what did that look like?
We did talk to the boys a little bit about it. And they were kind of indifferent. They didn't really know what anything else looked like.
Okay, right.
So, I mean, they didn't really have strong opinions one way or the other, but mostly it was something just John and I were working through. And like, I mean, I had listened to a lot of like alternative options and, you know, just looking into stuff, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just kind of a long process of, we saw things differently, and, but then we did just decide that we'll just give it a try.
Yeah, that's great. And I think I'm just reflecting on when we told our kids that we were going to leave RP. And again, we said, like, for 1 year, we're just going to try it. Yeah. They bawled their eyes out and they were like, we're not going, we're not leaving. And yeah, like, we love RP. And like you said, it, and Lanesboro School District, like, they're such great school districts. It just, on one hand, that kind of made me feel bad. Like, why isn't this working? This is such a great place to be. Why isn't it working for us? But like, little did I know how much the Lord had in store for us.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So how about like the big picture? Like, what kinds of things did you have to change, or what were you discussing, like when you were trying to, I don't know, make a pros and cons list, if that's maybe something that you did? What were some of the biggest things that you can remember that kind of stood out?
I think the biggest thing that really pushed us was having our kids have a strong faith in the Lord. Yeah. And like, that was our number one goal. Yeah. And that ultimately is what pushed that decision. The biggest thing that has just a little bit unexpected, and it shouldn't be, but like, so they went from going to school about 40 hours a week, once you include bus time and things, to about 20 hours now at Rooted. Yeah. And that extra time as a family has brought us so close together. Yeah. Like, we have the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have a 3-day weekend.
Isn't it amazing just what one day difference can make?
Like, I love it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Me
and
too.
The kids love it. And it has been such a blessing, you know, to just have that extra family time and just grow stronger as a family.
I think there's something to be said about that. One of the things that I have noticed recently, just in like different families around us, I think the devil really has a plan to break families apart. And there's so many different ways that it's playing out, but one of them is just the busyness, the logistics of being away from each other for so long. Yes. And I was just discussing this with another friend of like, one of the things that Adam and I had done prior to walking with the Lord is like, I'll work night shift, you work day shift. So then, like, we're working opposite schedules to help with childcare costs, which, right, like, that seems practical, that seems responsible to do. But little did I know how much that was like straining our family, because then Adam and I never had time together. And then it was just so strained because like he felt alone in his parenting in the evenings and I felt alone in my parenting during the days. And so it's not always like this big bad wolf that is like trying to come at your family. It's sometimes dressed up really pretty as, you know, let's keep them involved in different extracurriculars. Yes. Let's make sure that they're hitting their test scores. Let's make sure that they're being social. So sometimes the schemes are just tied with a pretty bow.
Yes.
Wow. Yes. Well, I'm really glad to hear that, because as you have these 3 sweet boys, I think they're really going to look back and be like, wow, our parents really did a great job of creating this family unit and having that as a foundation for when they grow up and start their families. I think they'll really appreciate that.
Yeah. So I feel like just the important, like, education, I feel like I've also shifted my mindset on what that looks like. And like obviously academics are really good. I want them to be able to be whatever they want to be, like have all the academics in a row. But I do feel like the most important education is actually like in life. It happens during life, and just now we have more of an opportunity to do life with the kids.
Yeah.
Which is just and I'm still trying to kind of break down this mindset of like always like getting the stuff done, trying to have the kids entertained and like getting my stuff done, but it's like bringing the kids along with and doing life with them.
Yeah.
Like bringing them into the garden, even in the kitchen, like to take care of the chickens, clean out the chicken coop, whatever it is. It's like just being more intentional of slowing down and doing life with them. Like I feel like the value of that type of education has risen so much in my mind. And like I'm trying to put a huge emphasis on more like that type of education.
Yes.
And again, of course, the academics is really good and important, but yeah. So I've been shifting my mindset a little towards that.
Okay. So I got to ask, like, how does John feel about that too? Because maybe you guys have different perspectives, which could be a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, actually, yes, I think he does. I think, again, we have to kind of almost undo just education happens in the classroom. Like, I feel like that's just such a mindset that we've had for so long that it takes a little undoing.
Yeah.
And like, we have a family business, a resort where we get to have the kids come with.
Yeah.
And again, that can be hard and it can slow things down and require patience, but yet, like, I remember, like, I went to college and got a business administration degree, and I remember, like, thinking back on that, and, like, I learned very little in the classroom compared to, like, from my dad.
Yeah.
Like, I learned
the
business
hands-on
from
piece of
my
it.
dad. And so, like, I'm just trying to shift that, and, like, that's what I want to do for my kids is, like, really teach those type of skills.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's ironically enough, when I went to school, I went to be a teacher. And so one of the things that they really wanted us to emphasize was that, like, the parent is the first teacher. And I think that a lot of educators do a really great job of trying to put the power back in the parents' hands. But that's one of the biggest things that I see here at Rooted Learning is that it is in the parents' hands. It's not like we're trying to put it in your hands. It really is in your hands, which I can totally appreciate both as the teacher and the mom. And it's so beautiful the way that the lessons can be catered to the individual student.
Yes.
And I know that, like, we both have students who maybe learn outside of their grade level and how great it is that it can be met right where they're at.
Yes.
Just the way that God intended for them to be so perfectly made in his image.
Yeah, I do. I love that about this situation at Rooted Learning Company, and just how it can be catered to each individual student, and they aren't sort of like stuck in a massive class and just like kind of go with the average or however they do it when they have no other option. Like, I understand that, but I love that about this school.
So you have a full year's worth of micro school under your belt, where the boys did attend full time, but there were still things that needed to be done at home. So going into the second year, like, having that experience, what were your guys' perspectives? What were you guys feeling heading into year number 2?
Just really excited about it. I mean, I just really appreciate this opportunity. I mean, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it, and the kids love it.
Yeah.
And so it's just such a shift in from kind of the kids dreading going to school to actually enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I'm just so thankful for it.
I love too that, like, there are so many real life skills being built during our day, and I can throughout the day, if somebody is facing a challenge, like we'll just stop and we'll pray right then and there and we'll hand it over to the Lord. And that to me too, as a mom, is just like, wow, for my kids to have the opportunity to be facing a really big challenge, and their teacher knows the importance of just stopping and praying and working through that in a way that's honoring to the Lord. I really believe that this generation of kids going through, having this firm foundation, they're going to be world changers.
Yes, I totally agree.
They are going to be world changers, and I'm so here for it. I'm excited to see it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, but also it's not like all rainbows and butterflies, because there are different things that are like challenging for some. Maybe you and John own your own business, which is great, but there are things like the scheduling or the drive or things like that. So how about like in those valleys, like what are some practical things if somebody's listening thinking like, well, how could I get over this, or how would we make this work? Like what's some encouragement for those valleys that they might face?
Honestly, God will make a way. If you are committing this to Him and you're saying, God, we feel like this is going to be what's best for our family, He will make the way. He will make the way for any situation, whatever it is financially. He will make the way.
Yeah.
It's just, He will make the way.
He will. I agree. That's actually one thing that we had to, when we thought about signing our kids up for Rooted, that was kind of one of the things that we were facing, is like, well, how does a 20-hour school week fit with our 40-hour work week? And what do our finances look like? And man, I got to read this to you. This is, so in February of 2023, I was just praying and journaling about it. And I wrote this: I'm constantly worried or thinking about the right answer. My mind is deceiving me, worried about the money, the social status, the convenience of my job and location, because at that time I was actually working in the school district. And I just wrote, Lord, I surrender. I know you will see us through it, through anything. And I could also go forward and see the mountains that were being moved because of Rooted Learning Company. So I just wrote, like, I want to follow your call. And I also wrote, this is the next part, I want to write and speak of your glory. And I know you will surely do it. Help me to keep my eyes on you and do it afraid. So that's something that just like totally stood out to me. So today is November 19th, 2024. This was written in February 8th, 2023. And yeah, to just know that I was going through some of those same questions of like finances, social status, like what are people going to think of me if I take my kids out of public school? And so those were some of the valleys that we faced too, but I agree. And like, I would love to sit down with anybody who's wondering, like, how are you guys doing it? And just encourage them that if the Lord is putting this on your heart, He will make a way for it.
And a lot of times we won't be able to see how He's going to do that until He does it.
Totally. Yep.
And that's the amazing thing about the Lord.
That was the verse in there, Brittany. It was about Peter when he had been fishing all day and caught nothing. And the Lord, Jesus told him, go out and cast your nets again. And he's like, but Lord, I've been doing this all day. I'm a professional fisherman. What do you mean? And then the Lord made a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. I love it. How specifically would you say that you have seen the Lord at work in the boys' lives, in your lives? Having that firm foundation, what are the things that the Lord is like revealing to you throughout this time?
I noticed that, well, one of the things is the kids, they're praying, like how you guys pray with them. I love that. They are such good prayers. Like they will lay their hands on people and just pray for them. Like that has been a really cool thing to see them do. They know things about the Bible that just surprise me. Like you guys do it. Like I get to listen to you guys. on Tuesdays, and like I love your lessons. Like really, it's so. I mean, what you guys are teaching them is just so important, and like you're teaching them the Word of God, which is going to bring success in their life.
Yeah,
like that is what brings success: is knowing the Lord and knowing His Word and walking in obedience. And so that's just been the coolest thing, is just their faith growing.
Yeah,
and how you guys like teach kids to like behave, like the behavior, the correction, everything that happens is based on the Bible, which is just incredible.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, this was the other verse that I had prepared. Brittany, you're going to love it. So in the book of Luke, Jesus is teaching. Imagine that. And in chapter 6, verse 40, he says, "The student is not above the teacher, but everyone who is fully trained will be like their teacher." And that is something that I was praying about when we were trying to decide for our own kids, and has actually like circled back again as like, okay, now I'm the teacher. And it really makes me take a look in the mirror of, okay, if these students are following my example, then I want to be as much like Jesus as I possibly can be. But this was just like such a great word. It says in my study notes here that make sure you're following the right teachers and leaders, because you will go no farther than they do. Yes. Look for leaders who will show you more about faith and whose guidance you can trust. Yeah, to just know that really it's not even Mrs. Laura or Mrs. Kim or Mrs. Tracy. It's really that we are pointing them back to Jesus, the teacher of all teachers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It's amazing. The friend of fools suffers harm, but one who walks with the wise becomes wise.
Exactly.
So it's like it is really important who you surround yourself with. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we get to do it all in one. We get to learn math while talking about Jesus.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess the next question here says, in what ways did you think, or like did maybe society or whoever influence you, that your old ways were kind of just normal? You had mentioned that at the beginning.
Yeah, just that, I mean, there wasn't really any consideration of like, this is what you do. You go to public school. Like, that's just what I grew up thinking, and really believing that anything else would be kind of less than. And so that took some undoing in our minds. And then just, it was very quick to see in our own life that for now anyways, it is the right choice to do alternative schooling. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what do you think this might look like for somebody who doesn't know the Lord?
I mean, I think even for people who don't know the Lord, the amount of time you have with your family in doing this type of schooling or homeschooling or whatever other alternative you choose is like, there is so much value in spending that time with your kids, which it is fleeting as they grow up so quickly. And I think that there is so much value, even if you don't know the Lord and that's not your thing.
Yeah, I agree. What else has the Lord led you to share with others about choosing an alternative path or non-traditional schooling?
Yeah, I think that just the biggest thing is to look at the fruit. And like, if it's not working out, like if there's just things that aren't quite right, it's like, just have an open mind and seek other options. I guess that's what I would say. Yeah.
If you could you paint a picture of maybe what wasn't working out for your family specifically?
Yeah. So, with each child, we had something different that wasn't like one of them. There was just there's a little bit of conflict going on that with other people, other kids, and then it would kind of subside, and then it would rise back up again, and it would subside, and it was just like there's just this conflict that was kind of continual. That were just like, we were kind of like, we don't know what to do anymore. And then with another one, we just had one who just really, really had a hard time every morning going to school. Like, it was really hard for him. And he would just be in tears every morning because he just didn't want to go to school.
Yeah.
And once he got there, he was fine. I'd pick him up at the end of the day, and it was like, oh, how was your day? It was good. He had friends. Like, there wasn't really a good reason. He just, every morning, and that continued. Like, just
that is tough on a mama's heart.
Yeah, it is. And then with another one, it was just like, there was like, he didn't speak very much, or like he was very silent almost throughout the entire year, of like just being very like not really engaging with the kids as much. And it's just like we're just like, I don't know, it just, there were things like that just were like, maybe there's something different. And every single one of those issues were completely gone, you know, after we switched. And so it was like, we just needed a different fit for our family for now.
Right.
So
wow.
Yeah.
I think too that many parents are probably facing very similar issues because it wasn't like there was this knockout thing that happened for us either. It was more of like, one of our kids who actually like performs well anyways was just having so much anxiety around completing the work. And if a test was coming up, I remember one day this kid just had like such a tough night at home, and finally in bed they asked me, does this make sense? And like asked me this question, and I'm like, I'm not really sure what you're asking me. And my child was like, that was what was on the test. And I was like, oh, you have been so stressed about that this whole time. And then, another one was just simply like not wanting to leave and to go into maybe something other than the family, which I think is okay. Because some of the comments, again, that I heard were like, well, they can't be at home forever, or they can't be a mama's boy, a mama's girl forever.
Right.
And it's like, okay, but they're only 5, so maybe they can be for a little bit longer, and maybe that's the way that God designed it to begin with, for Adam and I to lead them in this way. And what a blessing it is for us to be at Rooted, where, you know, I'm with the kids every day, but you're here often too, at least once a week, helping and serving. And I think that's so important for the kids to see too, is like, oh, mom is so involved in what's going on, and she's helping. And how about this? I got to ask you, how about the homework?
Oh yeah. We love that.
Yeah, love that there's no homework. Yeah.
Yes.
That kind of plays into what you said about like how much time you have together as a family. Because I can so quickly remember like, okay, wake up. Everybody's rushing to eat breakfast, to get on the bus, and then they're off and you don't see them for that long amount of time. And then you pick them up, or they get home on the bus and everybody's tired and everybody's hungry, and then you got to eat supper and you got to do homework, and who knows what kind of argument that will bring about, or what kind of stress that will be. And then you tuck them in for the night. So you got maybe a good quality hour with them.
Right.
Which
after you make supper and all the things going on. Yep.
Yeah, I've kind of thought about that too. I've had to really shed, because I love to be involved in things, and I've really had to shed the good pressure that goes along with schooling of these extracurricular things, like being in sports or being in plays or FFA or band, choir, like all these different opportunities. Like, we should get plugged in. And I really feel, I've actually been saying lately that I feel like the Lord is making my life so small. And Marnie, of course, she has been so sweet to me. She's like, Laura, that is where the Lord is calling you, and that is not small. Ammon said too, he's like, this is going to be big. Like, you doing this work within the walls of your own home is really going to go out and make a wave of difference. And so that's been so encouraging too, for others to see the importance of what's going on. And I love that, like Marnie, who doesn't have students at Rooted, but she's still involved. And so there's many different community members who've actually been praying for this for years, saying like, this is so great. How can I be involved? And really seeing the benefit for families.
Yes.
Wow.
Very cool.
So I think that we could probably just close with saying that public school is great for some. Homeschooling is great for others. Having a microschool opportunity is working really well for our families right now. So we just encourage anybody who's listening to get into prayer. Ask the Lord what he has for your family. And if you feel like he's nudging you in a different direction, just be obedient to that. And like Brittany said, like he will provide whatever it is. If it's a car for transportation, if it's money for tuition, if it's space in your home to set out your books, whatever it is, he cares even about the smallest details. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Well, I love teaching your boys. What a joy it is to have them.
Yeah, well, we're thankful for you.
Oh, and thanks for volunteering all the time too.
Yes.
Awesome.